Okay, so let's dive in. We're looking at a film that really sticks with you, doesn't it? The kind you're mulling over for days.
Oh, absolutely. Annihilation, Alex Garland's film.
Yeah, and it's been called this, like, fusion of things, hard sci-fi, definitely some intense psychological horror.
And, as the analysis we're looking at points out, a pretty deep philosophical allegory, too.
Right. It's loosely based on Jeff VanderMeer's novel, but it really uses that whole alien sci-fi look to zero in on some really complex human stuff.
That layering is what's so interesting, I think, and the analysis captures that well. It's not just sci-fi for kicks. It uses the strange other to explore things deep inside us.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're basically using your source material, this really thorough analysis, as our roadmap.
Like a shortcut, yeah.
Yeah, a shortcut to kind of get our heads around this pretty dense film. The mission, basically, is to pull out the key insights, figure out why it gets under your skin, and, well, what it's really trying to say.
Okay, so the basic premise, just from the summary we have, there's this mysterious zone, right? The Shimmer. Looks iridescent, appears on the coast.
And it's expanding and changing things inside, like genetically altering everything.
That's the idea. And previous missions? Well, they haven't gone well. People don't come back. Or if they do,
they're not right. Like Lena's husband, Kane.
Exactly. Which is why this new team goes in mostly female scientists.
Lena,
played by Natalie Portman. She's a biologist, ex-soldier.
And her reason for going, the analysis says, is super personal. It's about Kane, what happened to him.
Precisely. So they go in, and the place is weird. Described as both dreamlike and terrifying. Which sounds about right.
Yeah, grotesque mutations, plants, animals, but also psychological stuff starts happening, like memory loss, identity dissolving.
That collapse of individual identity is key. So Lena's journey, it's not just find the answers about the alien thing. It's really about confronting, well, herself.
And that's where the film gets really deep, according to this analysis. It's way more than just the surface plot.
Right. The source unpacks the big themes, the character psychology, all the symbols and visual clues, even the sort of metaphysical ideas floating around.
So let's try and guide you through those layers, help appreciate just how much is going on in this film.
Sounds good. Where should we start? Maybe the core themes. The analysis puts a lot of weight on those.
Yeah, let's do that. And one of the biggest ones it mentions is this idea of, well, self-destruction as evolution. Which sounds intense.
It is. The analysis is basically saying, look, self-destruction, addictions, affairs, the ways we mess up, maybe it's not just a flaw. Maybe it's deeper, almost, like biological.
Huh. So the Shimmer acts like a lens for that.
Kind of. Like a giant prism, the source says.
Yeah.
Refracts genetic psychology, everything. So those mutations, the horrifying ones.
Yeah.
The analysis argues they aren't just destruction, they're change. Breaking things down to make something new. So self-destruction is maybe the first step, the breakdown needed for transformation. Or evolution in a weird way.
Wow, okay. And that ties into another theme, right? Grief, guilt, and rebirth. Lena's decision to go in isn't just about Kane.
No, the analysis suggests it's also about penance. She's carrying guilt, right, about an affair.
Ah, right.
So the Shimmer becomes this metaphorical space for her own internal mess, a place to deal with the grief, maybe find some kind of atonement, and maybe, just maybe, get through it, transcend it even.
And as they go deeper, that theme of identity, it gets really blurry. The doubling, the dissolution, people literally lose themselves.
Physically, mentally, memories go fuzzy, their sense of me just dissolves. The analysis really focuses on how identity breaks down in there.
Like seeing copies of themselves or becoming copies.
Yeah, exactly. Which raises that big question. How stable is identity anyway? Can the self actually hold up under that kind of pressure, internal and external?
And then there's how nature is shown. It's like an indifferent God. The Shimmer isn't evil, is it?
Doesn't seem to be. No intent. It just alters, mutates, replicates. No morality, no judgment. Your source suggests it's like this alien, unthinking divine force.
Like evolution, but super fast and visible.
Kind of, yeah. Pure creation and destruction, without good or bad. So the conflict isn't really us versus them. It's us confronting this fundamental amoral change.
Okay, so if the environment reflects internal states, let's talk about the character's psychology. Because it seems like their insides mirror the Shimmer's chaos.
Oh, absolutely. Lena, for starters, she's already dealing with guilt, grief, feeling disconnected before she goes in.
Right.
And the analysis points out how that internal fragmentation is perfectly mirrored by the warped world inside the Shimmer. Her whole journey is facing this broken self.
And that climax with the doppelganger.
Yeah, the mirror image of her. And it's so ambiguous, isn't it? Did she destroy it? Did she merge with it? Did she become it? It's unsettling.
Totally. Then there's Dr. Ventress, the psychologist leading the team.
Yeah.
Jennifer Jason Leigh, she has cancer.
Right, terminal cancer. So her motivation, according to the source, is purely existential. She's not looking for a cure. She's not even really looking for answers in the usual sense.
What is she looking for then?
Meaning in the annihilation itself. A final, maybe profound confrontation with oblivion. Embracing it almost as a kind of ultimate truth or surrender before her own death.
Heavy stuff. And Josie, the physicist, Tessa Thompson's character, her fate is different.
Very different. The analysis calls her arc one of peaceful surrender. She actually merges with the plant life, becomes part of the Shimmer's altered nature.
So not a defeat for her.
No, presented more as integration. Merging with change instead of fighting it. A completely different response.
Compared to Anya, the paramedic, Gina Rodriguez, she goes the other way.
Yeah, the analysis sees her path as descending into paranoia, violence. She represents the ego fighting back, desperately trying to stay in control when reality itself is dissolving. A futile fight, really.
It's amazing how their inner states seem to dictate these wildly different outcomes. The analysis even uses archetypes, which is kind of neat. Lena as the seeker, Ventress the fatalist.
Josie the mystic, Anya the warrior trying to fight the inevitable. Even Cain is listed as the wounded masculine, the double. It just highlights how they embody these fundamental human ways of reacting to massive, incomprehensible change and trauma. And the Shimmer itself, called the labyrinth, the divine void. A place of confusion, but also potential transformation.
That framing really helps. Okay, let's shift to the symbolism, because this film is packed with it, starting with the big one, the Shimmer itself.
Yeah, and the source sees it as representing so many things at once. The unconscious mind, grief, massive change, even entropy, that tendency towards disorder, and just nature's indifference. It reflects all these complex ideas.
And the lighthouse, the glass lighthouse at the center, feels crucial.
Definitely. Described as the core of the psyche, the mythical spot for both annihilation and rebirth. Like this fragile, sacred endpoint where the ultimate confrontation happens with the self, with reality maybe.
And the things inside, the environment is full of these bizarre creations.
The crystal trees, those hybrid animals, like that bear, that screaming bear.
Oh God, yeah. Horrifying.
Your source sees them as evolution gone wild, warped into a nightmare. Nature remaking itself in ways that are both terrifying and, in a weird way, kind of awe-inspiring.
And maybe the most powerful symbol for Lena, the doppelganger.
Yeah, the analysis links it to the Jungian shadow self. You know, the unconscious parts of us, the stuff we suppress or don't want to admit to.
So this physical copy of Lena, it forces her to face those parts.
Exactly. It doesn't speak, doesn't seem to have a motive, but just by being there, it forces this unavoidable showdown with the self she maybe doesn't recognize anymore or is becoming.
Even that tattoo, the Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail, it spreads between them, mutates.
That's great detail. Symbolizes identity breaking down, becoming unstable, right? But also maybe how trauma connects them, how the Shimmer links them physically, viscerally.
Let's talk visuals too, because the look of the film is so key. That constant refracted light, the intense colors.
Everything inside the Shimmer has that iridescent glow, that distortion. The analysis argues it's not just pretty visuals. It symbolizes the actual refraction happening, light, biology, but also memory, identity, psychological states. The visual chaos mirrors the internal breakdown.
And the way shots are framed, lots of mirroring, symmetry.
Yeah, constantly doubling things, using reflections.
Yeah.
It reinforces that blurring between self and other, original and copy. It makes you, the viewer, feel disoriented, just like the characters.
Those slow zooms, too, like in the final confrontation and moments of real stillness.
They create this sense of awe, but also existential dread. And they force you to look, to confront what's happening, just like Lena has to confront her own reflection. It demands attention.
And the fractured timeline, the flashbacks, the sense of lost time.
That mirrors the memory distortion, the confusion. The way the story is told is designed to mimic the Shimmer's effect on the mind. It's deliberately disorienting.
Okay, so pulling all this together, the themes, psychology, symbols, visuals, what's the bigger picture? What are the main allegorical meanings here, according to the analysis?
Well, a really strong argument the source makes is that the Shimmer itself functions as a massive metaphor for grief.
Ah, okay. How so?
Lena's journey inside mirrors the stages of processing huge loss, denial, anger, like the violence, bargaining with this weird new reality, depression, surrender, leading to this terrifying kind of acceptance or integration at the end.
So her being broken down and remade inside the Shimmer, that is the grieving process, visually.
That's the interpretation, that grief itself is this force that both devastates you and utterly transforms you. It's an environment you pass through.
And the analysis also notes that the story is mainly driven by female characters, focusing on their internal emotional transformations. That feels different from a lot of sci-fi.
It does. Often sci-fi is about external battles, conquest. But here, the key symbols, the lighthouse, the shimmer, that final birthing of the copy, they feel very internal, psychological, almost womb-like. It's about exploring the inner landscape, surviving through change, not dominating an external enemy.
Which leads to that final point, cosmic horror without a monster.
Exactly. The being Lena fights isn't evil, it just mimics. The horror isn't being attacked by malice. It's the horror of losing yourself, your identity, your motives dissolving. Annihilation not just as death, but as total, inescapable transformation. It's terrifying, but also beautiful in a way.
Wow, yeah. The analysis you shared also touches briefly on other big ideas. Entropy, unreliable memory, trauma, the body changing, the limits of science facing the existential.
Yeah, the film doesn't give easy answers. It uses this stunning, scary landscape to pose these huge questions and filters them through these characters' experiences.
Okay, so after really digging into this analysis, let's just recap the main takeaways one last time for everyone listening.
Sure. We've seen how it unpacks themes like self-destruction as a path to change, the raw power of grief, identity dissolving, and nature as this vast, indifferent force.
Right. And how the symbols, the shimmer, the lighthouse, the doppelganger, and the visual style all work together to explore these really complex ideas.
And ultimately, the source frames it as sci-fi horror that's about ideas. The monster is change itself. It mixes that cosmic scale fear with really raw emotion. Meditation on grief and identity, basically.
And digging into an analysis like this, it really does give you those aha moments, doesn't it? It makes you appreciate the layers.
Absolutely. It changes how you see the film. It's not just watching, it's engaging with something really deep.
Totally. And that brings us to the final thought from your source material, which is pretty provocative. It says Lena comes out of the shimmer as something else.
Right. She's clearly not the person who went in. The change is visible, even in her eyes at the end.
So the question this analysis kind of leaves you with is, what does that actually mean? To become something else, after going through something so profoundly transformative, after your own shimmer, whatever that might be?
Does any of the original self survive? Or is it really annihilation, a complete death that allows something entirely new to be born?
It's a heavy question to ponder. Maybe worth a rewatch with all this in mind, or just something to sit with.
Definitely something to sit with.
Well, thank you for bringing this fascinating analysis into our deep dive. Really rich stuff.
My pleasure. It's a film that warrants it.
And thank you all for joining us for this deep dive into your sources.